Are you worried about the hantavirus cruise ship? Are you worried that we might end up in another lockdown? Let me explain. There isn't going to be another lockdown, at least not here in the United States. There are a number of people in Trump's inner circle who are absolutely 100% behind the idea of reducing the surplus population, as Charles Dickens once wrote in A Christmas Carol. They understand that there are 342 million Americans living here today, and they want about 100 million Americans to be living here. We see this first from Stephen Miller, who is, jump scare, no surprise. This is an older article from February of this year. Let me show you exactly where the quote comes from, how I can verify this information. At the bottom of that Forbes article I just showed you, it says, last year, the New York Times reported, quote, in one meeting during the 2024 campaign, Mr. Trump said that if it were up to Mr. Miller, there would be only 100 million people in this country, and they would all look like Mr. Miller, meaning white. So let's be clear. Up until this point, Stephen Miller, then DHS Secretary Kristi Noem, and now the new DHS Secretary Mark Wayne Mullen, have been trying to reduce the population of the United States by doing sort of like let's just call it what it is, a racial cleansing, right? They're going after people who are immigrants and or look like immigrants and or sound like immigrants. And by immigrants, I should probably correct myself, I mean non-white people. White people stole this land. Anyway, that's a different TikTok. The point being, they are deporting people or just caging them up somewhere. All of that being done, all of that being said, they feel, they being this regime, the overhead, the wizards behind the curtain, feel that this is not happening fast enough. And so I need to introduce you to our next figure who, by the way, trigger warning, this is incredibly dystopian and it also talks about genocide. So if you need to scroll. This vile-looking creature from the Black Lagoon with lifeless eyes is Curtis Yarvin. And if you don't know who he is, it's a can of worms. Be careful with your Google searches. But what you need to know here is that he is a techno-authoritarian. That is the government system he believes in. And what that is essentially the most dystopian version of a country you could imagine. We are talking about the elimination of most of the federal government. We saw a dismantling of that at the beginning of this term, by the way, with the Doge cuts. Anyway, so taking away the federal government, having quote unquote CEOs at the top, people like himself and others that I will mention, and then running this country through a dictatorship that is highly IT optimized, which in the most basic of terms means mass surveillance. It means facial recognition everywhere. It means things like censorship and internet blackouts, and using all of that to control not just domestic populations, but also those that are international, abroad. So it is very, very dystopian. And one of the most disgusting pieces of Curtis Yarvin's ideology is found in an article. I want to show the end of that article and then I'm going to show you the top. It has to be introduced that way. Trust me, I'm getting to my source. This is out of the New Republic. I'll show you all of that information in 1 second. The article says, in 2008, a software developer in San Francisco named Curtis Yarvin, writing under a pseudonym, proposed a horrific solution for people he deemed, quote, not productive. Convert them into biodiesel, that's real, which can help power the Mooney buses, which is a system of transportation. After saying all of that insanity, Yarvin says that he was, quote, just kidding, but then continued his statement, saying, quote, the trouble with the biodiesel solution is that no one would want to live in a city whose public transportation was fueled, even just partly, by the distilled remains of its late underclass, meaning the killed, quote unquote, unproductive members of society, according to Curtis Yarvin. However, it helps us describe the problem we are trying to solve. Then he says, our goal, in short, is a humane alternative to genocide. It's right there. Take a screenshot if you want. He then concluded in the statement that the best humane alternative to genocide is to virtualize these people, imprison them in permanent solitary confinement, where to avoid making them insane, they would be connected to an immersive virtual reality interface so they could, quote, experience a rich, fulfilling life in a completely imaginary world. Yarvin's disturbing manifestos, and this is very important, earned him influential followers, chief among them tech billionaire Peter Thiel and his one-time Silicon Valley protege, then Senator J.D. Vance. And this is why I had to wait to show you the New Republic article. Because this is where Vance gets his weird, terrifying, techno-authoritarian ideas. Because he was Peter Thiel's protege who was friends with Curtis Yarvin, and Peter Thiel ultimately introduced J.D. Vance to President Donald Trump. The day that J.D. Vance meets Donald Trump face to face for the first time, he is quite literally ushered into Trump's Mar-a-Lago office by Peter Thiel, who, by the way, will bring Yarvin's twisted techno-authoritarianism to the White House. But this is even better than they imagined, because now they could potentially have a pandemic on their hands. And this time, it is a virus with a mortality rate of nearly 40%. Your survival chances of this are much, much lower when it comes to this versus COVID-19. Share this with somebody so they know. And if something does happen, mask up. Don't listen to them. Listen to the rest of the world and listen to health experts. You can subscribe to the World Health Organization newsletter online. That's a good resource.